Geopolitical strategy in the Middle East is currently dominated by a high-pressure dynamic between the US, Israel, and Iran. From the perspective of Israeli leadership, Iran's regional influence and military capability represent an existential threat that must be neutralized for the state's survival. This tension is physically concentrated here, the Strait of Hormuz. It is a 21-kilometer tripwire that serves as the primary choke point for the global economy. While the public focus remains on oil, this map reveals a deeper dependency. Between 20 and 30% of the world's entire fertilizer supply radiates out from this exact gap to agricultural hubs on every continent. Industrial fertilizer is the only reason the Earth can sustain 8 billion people. If this strait is blocked, production halts. Global food supplies would drop so sharply that the planet could only support 1 to 2 billion people, triggering widespread famine within months. The region also controls a massive share of the global helium supply, roughly 30% of the world's total. Because helium is an inert gas, it is a non-negotiable requirement for the semiconductor industry. Without it, the production of microchips, CPUs, and memory modules stops entirely, freezing the manufacturing of almost all modern technology. A physical war in this strait translates immediately to the cost of living. When food, energy, and electronics are choked at the source, prices for the average consumer skyrocket. For those already living paycheck to paycheck, this shift creates a level of poverty that no amount of overtime can overcome. Analysts have identified 5 primary endgames for this conflict. The least destructive conclude in a stalemate. Iran could use advanced missile platforms to conventionally disable Israel's nuclear launch capabilities, or develop its own nuclear weapons to establish a permanent military deterrence. In Scenario 2, Iran retaliates by targeting the power infrastructure of neighboring Gulf states, destroying the desalination and cooling systems. This would make cities like Dubai or Doha uninhabitable and remove 1/10 of the world's natural gas supply from the market for years. Then there are the total war endgames. This includes the complete destruction of Iran via conventional or nuclear means, or Israel enacting the Samson Doctrine, a strategy of unleashing global nuclear destruction if the state itself is facing an unrecoverable defeat. Mutually assured destruction was once used to maintain a stable, tense peace. Today, that stability is balanced entirely on the decisions of regional leaders, who may choose total obliteration over a perceived existential surrender. The U.S. approach under Donald Trump has introduced a pattern of high-frequency market manipulation. By oscillating between threats of obliteration and sudden 48-hour pauses for negotiation, the administration causes oil prices to spike and plunge. This allows insiders to exploit the resulting market panic for immediate financial gain. Driven by a desire for a victory to secure a historical legacy, there is a high probability the U.S. will deploy ground troops to secure these energy fields. An invasion of Iran would be a quagmire. The military decentralized its command into 31 distinct provinces, each with own weapons, resources, and fail-safes. There is no single base to take out that causes the system to collapse. Historically, prolonged conflicts like this serve as a mechanism for transferring wealth. Even if a stable protectorate forms, the massive economic damage of the war permanently widens the gap between the working class and the global elite. While the conflict in the Middle East threatens our physical resources, the artificial intelligence boom is creating a simultaneous threat to our labor markets. Tech giants are currently spending $5 on AI infrastructure for every $1 they generate in revenue. This hyper-competitive overinvestment is creating an unsustainable bubble that mirrors the boom and bust cycles of the 19th century railway expansion. When this bubble contracts, the focus will shift to aggressive cost-cutting through automation. Firms are already using AI agents to replace junior analysts and entry-level administrators. If this trend scales to the enterprise level, up to 50% of all white-collar jobs face permanent elimination as companies prioritize algorithms over human payroll. This also exposes why assets like Bitcoin cannot serve as a reliable escape. Its security relies on massive computational energy. As we reach the physical limits of the biosphere, the energy required to maintain cryptocurrencies will be redirected toward survival, driving their value to zero. A blocked strait and a bursting AI bubble both expose the fragility of a global system that prioritizes short-term optimization over long-term resilience. To weather these shocks, the global economy needs a systemic update. We have reached the limit of what ruthless, short-term competition can provide. The next decade requires a shift toward cooperative economic principles to manage technological displacement. If AI successfully decouples human labor from economic output, the consumer base loses its ability to purchase goods. Universal basic income becomes a necessary tool to provide the liquidity required to keep the retail economy from a total collapse. But macroeconomic changes move slowly. Relying on global supply chains or politicians to secure your personal survival is no longer a viable strategy. Security now depends on physical self-sufficiency. This means insulating your home from global price spikes by generating off-grid energy, like residential solar, and establishing localized sources for food. The modern economy relies on a series of precarious connections. Surviving the dual shocks of the coming decade requires abandoning the assumption of global stability and rebuilding local resilience.